So in this video, we are going to be going over this KSampler node, and we are going to try to go over every piece of it so that we can understand it and know how to work with it. And we are also going to go over the advanced KSampler, which is basically just the KSampler, except it has a few more features. So we brought both of our KSamplers over here just so that we can go over every piece of them individually. And first we'll start with our standard KSampler, and specifically the sockets on the top. And these are actually going to be the same between the standard KSampler and the advanced KSampler. And it's also fun to note, if you hover over any of these, a little socket will appear, and you can actually connect a different node to that. So like if you wanted to control steps and seed, you can handle that with a different node altogether. And we have our inputs in red, and the output is in blue. So let's go over each of those. First we have the model, and this is just going to be whatever AI model you're using. And if you change the LoRA or make any sort of changes to the model, you're going to want to make sure you do that before connecting it to this socket. And then we have positive and negative. And this is where we're going to connect our prompt, but also any embeddings or control nets are also going to connect here. So I really hope in our next video we can go over control nets. That'll be a lot of fun, allowing us to control poses, and this is where we will be connecting them. So that'll be fun. And then we have latent image. And this is not actually like a pixel by pixel image in the way we think of it. It's more of like a mathematical representation of the idea of an image that the AI can easily manipulate. And you can either use an empty image here, or you can generate a latent using another image as a base and passing it through a VAE encoder. And then finally our output, and this is going to be the latent that is generated by our KSampler and model that we can plug into a VAE decoder and turn it into our final image. Then we have our parameters, and parameters are where it starts to get really interesting, because this is where we can start modifying how the internal behavior of our KSampler operates. So first let's start with seed. And this is the randomness that's going to actually determine our image, because as our sampler is working, it requires some randomness in order to actually generate the image. And there's over 18 quintillion possible seeds, which is just an insanely big number. And that is a unsigned 64-bit integer, if you're curious as to how they got that very specific number. And just to put this number in perspective, if you had a specific prompt and specific settings and you wanted to try all the possible seeds on it, and it took you 1 second to generate every image, it would be more than 580 billion years of generation. So really, you don't want to be looking for a specific seed. You want to be modifying other factors in order to determine your output. And one of the other things is you're sometimes going to want to rein in which seeds you're using. And you can do that with control after generate, which is going to control how the seed is generated. And you have 4 options. You have fixed, increment, decrement, and randomized. And fixed is really basic. You're just keeping the same seed. And you're going to want to use that if you're working on changing your prompt or maybe tweaking an image. Just keep it fixed. That way you can know if the difference comes from your change or from a different seed. And then next you have increment, decrement. This is going to adjust the seed by 1, either up or down, depending on which one you select. And this will work in most cases. A lot of times when I'm using like a LoRA or something, I will use increment and just use the same 10 to 20 images and keep doing the same seeds with different applications of the LoRA to see which one kind of works better over the same few images. And then you have randomize, which gives you a new seed every generation. Personally, I use increment a lot more than I use randomize. It's kind of up to you. I've noticed that with almost every image generation, different seeds, just one apart, will give you totally different images. However, I have noticed that with WAN and video generation, sometimes similar seeds do give similar outputs. So if you guys notice anything about that, please actually let me know in the comments, because I am rather curious. But in my experience, for images at least, increment or decrement tends to work just as good as randomize. And then next we have seeds. And this is how many times we're going to be processing the latent as we are generating the image. So in general, lower is going to be faster, higher is better, but it's going to be really dependent on the model and sampler that you're using. So some of the smaller models, or like Turbo or Lightning, you're going to get away with just like 8 or 9 steps. Some other models you might need 20 or even like 40 steps. So it's really going to be dependent on your model, and I would play around with this. If your image looks fuzzy or something, you might want to raise the steps. Next, you have CFG, which is classifier free guidance. And this is how closely the image generation is going to adhere to your prompt. So higher values, it's going to be closer to your prompt. Lower values, you're giving it more quote unquote artistic freedom. And also, it's generally good to stay around 7. Some models, as always, are going to behave differently. In particular, Lightning and Turbo models, you're going to want a really low CFG as well. So when I use like Z-Image Turbo, I'm usually having a CFG around 1. If I start raising it, I get weird behavior. So I would test that if your model is acting a little funky. It might be a Lightning model, and you might want a lower CFG, or if you're just getting something that has nothing to do with your prompt, raise CFG up. And then next we have sampler name, and there are so many different samplers, I cannot go over them, but some samplers will work better for different models. So you might want to check on your model, do they recommend a particular sampler? If so, use that, or just play around and see which one works best for any given model. And some samplers do inject randomness at each step, which is going to affect convergence. And that sounds really weird, but one example I like to use is Euler versus Euler ancestral. So we see right here we have Euler, which is the default, and that's generated with different versions at different steps. So here we see it at 9 steps and 15 steps. Euler is giving us pretty much the exact same image, very slight deviation on the person, background looks exactly the same. If we go to 20 steps, we now see there's a slight bit more difference. She's like looking at the camera a little bit, same overall image. Going up to 35 steps, same person, but she's looking at the camera a lot more now. If we keep going, we do like 50 steps, same pretty much image. 75 steps, she's looking, we've definitely converged, it's the same person, and of course we're using the same prompt and everything. The only thing that's changing here is the steps. But what if we come over to ancestral? How is that going to be different? And again, using the same exact prompt, but now here we have 9 steps, and we go to 15 steps. Okay, slight difference. And she looks a little different, but if you look at the background here with Ancestral, it looks quite a bit different now. In this first one, it's all blurry. Here we have more of a path. Going on to 30 steps, her position is totally different. Again, the background has changed. 50 steps, she's suddenly Asian. I don't know what happened there, but definitely like a totally different person. So that's interesting. And background, again, is a little less different. Here we see more of the difference going to the person. Going to 75 steps, she changed once again. She's not Asian anymore, just bouncing all over the place with her character. 100 steps, pretty much the same. Background is getting really blurry. And 125, same thing. So what's the difference? On these, we are including a little bit of randomness on each step. So as we continue progressing, it takes a lot longer to reach convergence with Euler ancestral. So that's the sampler. The next we have is the scheduler, which is going to control how much noise is taken out at each step. And linear is going to take out equal noise at each step. ComfyUI actually doesn't have linear. They have linear quadratic, which is a pretty old sampler. You're not going to usually be using that one. Then you have normal, which is the default and works okay, but it's kind of old. It's not really optimized. Then you have exponential, which gets a little bit better. Now we're taking out more at the beginning and less at the end. And that one's pretty good, but usually nowadays you're going to be using Keras, which is just a really good scheduler, really popular, and works for a lot of different models. But you're going to want to play with samplers and schedulers. If you're not getting good results on your sampler, it could be because your scheduler does not work right with that particular sampler. Then we have denoise, and this is just going to be how much of the noise of this latent image is going to get removed. And if it's an empty image, it should always be at 1 or 100%. But if you're using an image with noise applied to it, you may want lower values of denoise. And this doesn't apply so much with inpainting. Sometimes at inpainting you'll still want to use 100%. But if you're just changing an image, then you might want to keep some of that original image, in which case you might end up using a much lower denoise ratio. And then next we have our KSampler Advanced. And the KSampler Advanced actually has a lot of overlap. So like all of these are going to be exactly the same. The only difference is a noise seed is the same as seed. For some reason with KSampler Advanced they changed that name. But we have a few more options coming in. We have first add noise, which is going to choose whether or not we're actually adding noise to the seed. So if we generate an empty latent image and we don't add noise, it will not generate anything because there's no noise for it to work with. But sometimes you're passing in a latent image that already has noise on it. So in that case, you would maybe want to denoise, or you could strip that noise and just re-add noise. So it's up to you. And then we have start at step and end at step, which is going to control which steps the KSampler is handling. So you may not want to do all of your steps. You may want to do only a certain amount of steps. So if it's greater here than your total steps, it's just going to default to this. So this would still generate 20 steps, even though we're saying end at 10,000. But if we put here like 10, it's going to stop at 10, but still have its scheduler working as though it's going to have 10 steps. So that can be really good if you want to like take shots from within samples so that you can see what images look like before it's fully generated. And then finally, you have return with leftover noise, which is just, do you leave the current randomness attached to the latent? And this is really going to come into play when we are using these, the steps. So like if we put like say start at step 0 and end at step 10, we could return with leftover noise and feed that into another KSampler and finish the generation over there, but we could still see what it looks like before we finish generation. And really the best way to see how all of that works is with an example. So here we have an example of how we can use the advanced KSampler features. And first we have the LoRAs that we used in our LoRA tutorial. The dark Ghibli style, we're applying it and getting this image from a standard KSampler. The Murano glass style, again with a standard KSampler, and these are from the same seed. And then we have both of the LoRAs together, we get this image. But what if we don't want to just apply the LoRAs in this dual configuration? What if we want to use our KSampler's advanced features? So what we are doing here is in our first 10 steps, we are applying the dark Ghibli style, and we can see it's generating an image very similar to this. It's actually generating this exact image, it just hasn't gotten all the way there. And then we are pausing the generation at step 10, pushing that latent into the next KSampler and starting again at step 10. And we are enabling noise here. We didn't pass with leftover noise. But now with this KSampler, we are getting our model and clip from this one where we generated the Murano glass style. And then we get this image, which is much more similar to our dark Ghibli style, but it's still glass. Like this guy's clearly glass, this little creature's glass, so it's using the glass, but it's taking more of the base of the image from the dark Ghibli, because at the start of the sampling is always when the base of the image is created. So that's just super fun. I hope you guys explore that a little. I mean, there's so much you can do. You could try different prompts, for instance, to different parts of the image, all sorts of things. And that's about it. That's everything there is to know with the samplers. I hope that that will be helpful to you guys in your own projects. And in our next videos, we will be going over how we can use control nets to actually pose characters. And I will also very soon be getting into those Langflow tutorials. so that we can use LLMs with nodes, because that will be a lot of fun. But I hope you guys have a good day, and I can't wait to see you guys in the next video.